Did you know that TCL not only make TVs but also phones? I didn't either. Well, they reached out to me and sent me this TCL 10 Pro to review. And well, mid-tier, I'm going to challenge you on what that actually means. Find out in this review. Are you looking for a phone that looks a lot like Samsung, but without the price tag? Well, I might just have the phone for you, the TCL 10 Pro. If you're like me and you didn't know that TCL makes phones, well, I'm here to say yes they do, and well, my time with the 10 Pro surprised me. What with its premium design, regular software updates, and a device that punches above its $550 price tag. So in this review, I'll be covering its build, features, software and camera, and answer the question, do we need premium smartphones? The first thing I noticed about the TCL 10 Pro was its long, slender design that feels premium because, well, its materials are. Made from a solid, powder-coated metal chassis, this 177-gram mid-tier phone isn't made from plastic like the Google Pixel 4a nor Samsung's A41 and A51. Instead, you get a satin-like matte edged glass back that looks and feels similar to a OnePlus phone. But where those and other cheap phones fail like on so many levels, the TCL 10 Pro looks and feels great in hand, helped by that 6.47-inch AMOLED display. In terms of screen brightness, I found the TCL 10 Pro to be completely fine and usable outdoors. However, I have seen reviews stating it anywhere between 300 to 600 nits, but I've also seen ones stating 1000 nits. Now, I think those lower numbers are to do with it operating in HDR mode, which I'll talk about soon. Now that screen is plenty punchy and web pages are clear. However, around the edges, you will notice some sort of fringing going on, which is a little bit distracting if you go looking for it. Circling back to this display's HDR capabilities, only Netflix gets the true HDR10 certification. You can opt for it to have a crack at doing like SDR to HDR, but honestly, I couldn't make out any difference between doing this, so let me know below if you have one and whether or not it's worth your battery. I gotta say, as striking and well, as good looking as the screen is, with that Samsung-like screen wrap, it makes people wonder if you've actually got a high-end phone. The way the screen melts into the sides is pretty good for the most part. I'm normally not a fan of curved screens because of accidental palm inputs, but TCL has you covered with settings available to pad out that zone. Under the screen is an optical fingerprint sensor, which gets the job done in a reasonable time frame. Taking a tour around the phone, you've got a 3.5mm headphone jack, a dedicated sort of programmable side button to summon Google, a camera array and flash that is thankfully flush with the phone's body, meaning no bump or annoying rocking like some phones do. For charging, you get USB-C and a single speaker on the bottom right, which is okay for couch consumption of YouTube or listen to music, but it's not good if you hold your phone and cover that speaker. And being just a one place for sound output, it certainly won't do well in a busy street or give you a stereo effect. Now, before I leave designing external features, I need to make mention of this manufacturing issue whereby the bottom ridge doesn't quite run in line with the rest of the body. It didn't bother me at first, but as I got to know exactly where it was, my OCD kicked in and I kept checking to see if it was perhaps a result of previous reviewer dropping the phone or just a design flaw. Shifting to specs, the TCL 10 Pro has a large 4500 mAh battery that lasts for a good 10 hours plus, even on heavy use days. On weekends, when I'm home and I tend not to use my phone as much, this battery would often go 2 full days without needing to be recharged. TCL's custom UI is not overplayed, with Google Stock OS apparent and doing most of the heavy lifting. You'll get some silly doubling of apps, a little bit of bloatware, and other system tweaks that should perhaps actually be included into like stock Android phones. Performance is pretty good, with little stuttering or telltale signs of underbaked chipsets. The TCL 10 Pro is powered by a Snapdragon 675 and backed by 6GB of RAM. It's a good setup for a phone in this price point. Opening apps is snappy, with the camera firing up quickly. Skipping between multiple open apps is brisk enough with thanks to that generous RAM allotment, and home screen navigation feels nice and fluid. I looked up Geekbench performance because, once again, this phone felt more than capable of keeping up with like a Samsung flagship phone, and well, amazingly, multi-core Geekbench 5 scores put the TCL 10 Pro at a reasonable 1604. That's actually better than Samsung's A51, which comes at 1293, and the Pixel 3a. So, hats off to TCL for choosing a good processor and generous RAM. Performance overall is good, but for die-hard gamers, the 10 Pro may disappoint. But hey, if you're into mobile gaming, would you actually be looking at this phone anyway? For casual gaming like Angry Birds, it's more than powerful. For a mid-tier phone, sure, you're not going to get top-shelf processing power here, and there has to be some omissions to keep prices down, like the absence of an IP water rating, nor wireless charging either, but you get most everything else like NFC, check, Bluetooth 5.0, check, dual SIM or micro SD expandability, check. Turning to the TCL cameras, the front-facing 24 megapixel selfie camera takes reasonably crisp shots, albeit with a little bit of noise, and well, they're serviceable. Looking to the rear array, featuring no less than 3 cameras, with one of them for measuring depth only, I can't work out why there isn't a telephoto lens. I mean, come on, 3 lenses, wide, normal, and zoom? Am I right? So instead, the phone will either like zoom or crop shots depending upon camera mode. A weird omission indeed. For those who want to try a bit of macro photography, then I would recommend the TCL 10. At just 5 megapixels, it produces, in good light, great looking shots which hide that low pixel count. The main 64 megapixel f1.8 camera is good too. Shots look a little over colourful and high contrasty for my liking, similar to what I've found on Samsung phones, but you can actually dial it back in software. Completing the camera array, the 10 Pro has a 16 megapixel ultra-wide camera which is fun to use. More often, I found myself taking photographs with the primary and then this lens just to see if I could get something a bit different. Results were pleasing with little distortion nor vignetting. Hey guys, have you found Wally yet?
No.
You haven't seen Wally yet? Where's
Where's
Wally?
They're getting warmer or colder.
Where's Wally? What does he look like?
He's like a robot.
Now, the camera app has a lot going on. Too much for this review, but one feature I think worthy of mentioning is its ability to take night shots. Called Super Night Mode, it's hard to tell between this phone and my main go-to, the Pixel 5. Can you tell? Perhaps you could, but remember, this phone is half the price of the Pixel 5, or about $100 less than any of the A variants. So if you're looking for a good camera at a reasonable price, I would suggest the TCL 10 Pro. Well, my time with the TCL 10 was pretty good. I gotta say that this thing impressed me more than I expected. The display, I think is pretty good. The reviews I've read out there about it not being very bright, I'm not getting it. Honestly, this thing's been reported at 1000 nits and is perfectly workable outside and very poppy inside. I think that the HDR tuning that they've done, especially like for Netflix, if you're a consumer of media content on your phone, give this thing a good look. Honestly, it's a great display, and it's kind of easy to look past the fringing on the edges, which I talked about earlier. Plenty of RAM, plenty of grunt. Honestly, if you're thinking that you want a high-end phone like what Samsung used to do with its curved screens and its performance and well, overall look and design, this thing is undercutting them by quite a lot. And now that they've come out with the S21 and they've dropped that curved screen, and you still want that with the large screen, gorgeous screen, you can't go wrong with it. Sure, if you're into hard-end gaming, this isn't for you, but for casual gaming like, Angry Birds, yeah, it's perfectly fine. So I think you can get this thing between like $600 to $750 depending where you get it from. If you need a large phone and you want something that's going to last you all day, you really can't go wrong with the TCL 10 Pro.